Hello, and welcome to Question in a Bottle. In this series of short discussions, private investor Mark Atkinson answers questions sent in by listeners and subscribers to his main podcast, The Desert Island Investor. So, let's take a look and see what's in the bottle that washed up on the beach today.
We have a question from Progressive Equity Research's very own Katherine Amos. And Kath asks, how do you select the shares in your portfolio? From the outside, they look like a random collection. Do you have a system or a screening process? Well, Kath, ouch. We actually met up a couple of weeks ago together with Gareth Evans from Progressive. And I was in the city predominantly for the MP Evans AGM, which was held at Tello Chandler's Hall. And an excellent event it was too. However, as usual, I spent several days down in the city, and it's a good opportunity to hold other meetings and also have a nice time. So it's coming up to a year since Progressive kindly started hosting the Desert Island podcast. And we thought it was a good opportunity to have a review. And we were in a delightful Italian wine bar on Basingall Street when Kath was just innocuously topping up my glass of Barolo and delivered this Columbo question with just one more thing. Now, I've had it levelled at me before that I do not appear to have a system, but to me, I think I have. However, it's not one that can be described concisely in just a couple of sentences. For some people, their system, they just use a word, growth, income, quality, recovery. For me, it's really about where do I not invest? It's the other side of the same coin. But I cast categories aside and look at what's left. Now, at a very basic start point, all of my holdings are UK listed, either LSE or AIM. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all UK based. For example, Smurfit Kappa, they're based in Ireland, Somo Enterprises in Fort Myers, Florida, and MTI Wireless in Israel. I think there are 193 countries in the world as recognised by the UN, and at a stroke, I've dispensed with 192 of these, all the way from the US to Ethiopia. Now, investing overseas often presents tax, communication, and additional dealing and holding costs. And despite the internet, they are still often distant. Information is less accessible, and they are less woven into our everyday lives. And if we can just use as a test case, let's look at one of my holdings, Tesco. It's by far the largest player in the domestic UK market. It's got 27% market share. It has supermarkets and convenience stores, including One Stop, some of which are franchised. It's got a loyalty card, Club Card, which is universally known. It has a bank that it's selling to Barclays. It owns Booker, who are a wholesaler. They have petrol forecourts, interests in the Republic of Ireland and Central Europe. They do online groceries, and they've traded for over 100 years. Now, the next biggest is Sainsbury's. They were the former number one. We've got Morrisons and Asda, and together with the other two, they were known as the Big Four, although Aldi have overtaken Morrisons in terms of market share. Both Morrisons and Asda were bought out several years ago, and they've been saddled with large amounts of debt. This is something that they obviously need to service. We also have Aldi and Lidl, who are German and are described as discounters, and they operate on a slimmer pared-back model. And then there's a collection of others. There's Co-op that have a convenience model, Waitrose, part of John Lewis, which is more upmarket, Iceland, which is largely as a frozen offering, and Ocado, an online provider, and some fringe others. And we can read about them on the newspapers, watch adverts, their occasional TV programs, and we can use them ourselves and see the offering and speak to others about what they use. So although we've just touched the surface, and we could go on and on and on, and I doubt anything I've said will take anybody by surprise. So if you were to ask me to talk about the French supermarket sector, now I know there is a chain called Carrefour. And there I've just exhausted my total knowledge in this area. So this might be an extreme example, given the type of business it is, but the start point for understanding the UK over the French market is much greater just by virtue of being a UK citizen and having this world around me and this information stream that's almost osmotic. So if you can build on your existing knowledge, then this gives you a head start and some shortcuts in your research and your screening process. Now, I would suggest that the average non-investor, there's still a lot of knowledge of what many listed companies actually do and what affects their business. You might actually work for one of them or have a family member or a friend that does. So being UK focused, I'm limited to, I think it might be around, say, 1,900 stocks on the LSE and another 800 on AIM. Now, I don't invest in investment trusts, and I think there's something like 400 of them. I act as my own fund and trust, and that prevents me from paying those ongoing fees. I don't touch anything that's just IPO'd. They have a tendency to have done some window dressing and brought to the market when the timing is ripe. I don't touch anything that's pre-profit. I do miss out on some stars, but I struggle to predict the trajectory of certain businesses. And some businesses, not only do they not have any profit, they don't have any revenue. They seem little more than an idea. Then there's non-food retailers. Anybody that sells a shirt can quickly have their model replicated. Car dealerships, the retailers of cars. Where's the moat? Now, then there's what I call people businesses, information technology, marketing, recruitment, legal services, a courier business. All you need is a man and a van and you've got a courier business. Restaurants, insurance, exploration. That consists of pumping money in the hope that you'll find a revenue stream one day. Airlines, they tend to go bust quite often. Anything across the investment area, which consists of stockbrokers, wealth managers, etc. Private investors are increasingly aware of fees, and these are being squeezed, especially with the arrival of trackers. If you look at Vanguard entering the UK fund market, that's changed things immensely with those away from commissions. So lots of these people businesses are asset light, and therefore they have high margins. But I'm mindful of somebody else coming along and with mean reversion, just withering those returns. And I don't want to have to be there poised, trying to recognise when that moment is. And I would probably be way too late. Other sectors that I avoid are property companies, house builders, infrastructure services, anything I can't easily understand. In my case, a prime example is software. But if people were to use this model, then it would probably be that something else that they don't understand. So you can see from that start point that I cast aside, I've lopped off just large swathes of companies, and I've never tallied them, but what's left is not a lot. Those that make it through have to go then to further analysis, and it could be a question for another time, but simply a major stumbling block is that they're simply too expensive. So in the portfolio, there's a collection of businesses from diverging sectors. And as Kath identified, there doesn't seem to be much common ground across them. Or what is the common ground? Well, broadly, I'm looking for the stocks that make it through to the portfolio to fall into one of two categories. Firstly, one with some form of moat, a unique selling point. And in truth, there's not much that's truly unique. There are things that are similar and they can be substituted in many ways, but having some form of differentiation is about the best we can ask for, and it makes it just that little bit more difficult for any competition, either current or potential. Now, example stocks that we've covered so far are Unilever with all those strong branded goods. Strix with its patented kettle controls, and Somero with its patented concrete levelling machines. Also, Nichols and the Vimto brand. Now, the second category is companies that they don't have a unique offering, but their sector is experiencing a sustained tailwind that's creating a rising tide that will hopefully raise all boats. Now, Smurfit Kappa the move away from plastic packaging and the increase in e-commerce. Tesco, an increasing UK population that needs feeding, and despite this being largely accomplished in many ways, still there's the demise of market traders and independent convenience stores, and MP Evans and Palmer with an increasing world population that's becoming urbanized and creating a consumer class that again it needs to be fed. And also this consumer class is time poor and requires an element of convenience with its food preparation. And also another one could be entertained with the explosion of internet gambling and the opening up of the US market. Now, some may straddle both categories. If we return to Sombrero, not only does it have an unrivaled product offering, but there's also that tailwind that I highlighted with Smurfit Kappa of the increased e-commerce and the knock-on need for the increased warehousing and distribution centres. Now, in both categories, I'm looking to find some kind of long runway. I'm not trying to capture things like the pent-up holiday boom following COVID. These are fireworks. They're exciting for a while, but quickly fizzle out and fall to ground. The desert island concept is around low maintenance, and although I do follow these companies, I monitor them and I discuss them via the podcast, I'm not shackled to my computer all day. I'm not fretting, researching my next position, etc., etc. I can enjoy the freedoms that the portfolio allows me. I don't want to be a slave to it, and if I was marooned on this island for 5 years and I was prevented from touching my investments, hopefully things would largely take care of themselves. It's a portfolio that suits me, and it wouldn't suit everybody. Now, I don't for a moment claim that this system is perfect. None is. If you look at Titan Holdings, I thought that the new UK ventilation building regs would have been a considerable tailwind for this business, and they've not been able to take advantage of this. I saw Me Group and Zytronic as both being beneficiaries of what I consider the increasing role of vending. Me has performed extremely well, whereas Zytronic has not, and they find themselves at opposite ends of the portfolio. And Strix that I've mentioned have been on the acquisition trail, and they've got high levels of debt that have curbed the appetite of investors. But hopefully you can see the thought process of what I'm trying to achieve, even if I've misjudged things. As I've said previously, I do not expect all my investments to be triumphs, but as long as I can get it right more often than I get it wrong, and the fact that the most you can lose in a position is 100%, whereas there's no upside or ceiling, then I envisage, well, I'll keep to this system. There are many different systems, and I think it's probably more important to have a system. It's probably more important to have a system than what that system actually is. I think it creates a framework, and it has boundaries, and you've got the freedom to exceed these if you wish, but it does tend to keep, to prevent you from flip-flopping from idea to idea and achieving little. So, Kath, thank you for the question, and I do hope I've articulated it in some fashion as to what I'm trying to achieve.
Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember the content is for information only, and it is not financial advice. If you have a question for Mark for our Question in a Bottle podcast, just complete the form on our website, thedesertislandinvestor.co.uk. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.